Typical. Another welfare queen trying to scam the system. Officer Kyle Thompson spits the words as he snaps handcuffs around Diana Barnes's wrists. Her briefcase crashes to marble as he yanks her from the teller window. "Move it! We're taking this outside!" Thompson grabs her arm and begins dragging her across the banking floor. Diana's heels scrape polished stone with each forced step. Her blazer tears as he hauls her past shocked customers toward the glass exit doors. 30 phones capture the spectacle. A professional black woman being dragged through Memphis's financial district like a common criminal. Her dignity shreds with every public stride. Bank fraud, aggravated theft. Should have stayed in your own neighborhood, sweetheart. The exit approaches. Memphis heat waits beyond the glass. Thompson's 15-year veteran swagger radiates complete control over the situation. But he just made the biggest mistake of his career. And what happens next will change everything. 3 weeks earlier, Diana Barnes kissed her 8-year-old daughter goodbye at their East Memphis apartment. The morning routine masks a federal operation months in the planning. "Be careful today, Mom." Sarah's small voice carries worry beyond her years. "Always am, baby. See you tonight for dinner." Diana drives toward downtown Memphis through morning traffic, her FBI badge hidden beneath professional attire. The Financial Crimes Division has been building a comprehensive discrimination case against First National Bank for 6 months. Today marks the culmination of systematic surveillance targeting both the institution and its coordinated police contacts. Her primary target follows predictable patterns. Officer Kyle Thompson patrols this banking district every Tuesday and Thursday morning without deviation. His complaint file spans 47 documented incidents over 15 years of service. 73% involve minorities. The mathematical impossibility of random occurrence screams intentional bias, but federal prosecutors require real-time evidence of civil rights violations. Diana parks her sedan across from First National and methodically checks her concealed recording device. The surveillance van positioned 2 blocks away holds 2 backup agents continuously monitoring police radio frequencies. Thompson's communication patterns follow predictable rhythms throughout his patrol shifts. Suspicious activity calls involving black customers average every 2 weeks from this specific downtown location. The FBI's sprawling discrimination investigation extends far beyond individual officer misconduct allegations. First National's internal training materials contain systematically coded language targeting urban demographics and high-risk customer profiles. The bank management maintains direct coordination protocols with Memphis Police Department supervisors to remove problematic customers before banking transactions reach completion. Diana reviews today's operational timeline inside her government vehicle. Her planned large cash deposit transaction will automatically trigger established discriminatory protocols embedded within institutional bank policy. Specially trained staff members will follow institutional bias guidelines without question. Management will initiate police contact procedures according to documented protocols. Thompson will respond within his carefully documented 15-minute response window. The subject typically arrives within 12 to 18 minutes of the initial suspicious activity call. Diana speaks quietly into her concealed microphone transmitter. Response pattern holds absolutely consistent across 7 previous documented surveillance observations. The imposing target building rises before her like a monument to systematic financial exclusion. First National Bank serves Memphis's prestigious downtown business district, its polished marble facade projecting institutional stability and deep community trust. Yet inside those seemingly respectable walls, systematic racial bias operates daily under carefully crafted corporate policies specifically designed to exclude minority customers from equal banking services. Diana's comprehensive morning briefing emphasized the serious federal stakes involved. Proven civil rights violations carry substantial criminal penalties and mandatory institutional oversight requirements. But establishing discriminatory intent requires capturing actual bias behavior in real-time operational situations. Today's carefully constructed banking transaction represents sophisticated federal bait designed to expose the entire coordinated discrimination operation. Thompson's marked patrol vehicle rounds the familiar corner exactly according to his meticulously established patrol schedule. Diana starts her digital stopwatch and adjusts her professional blazer one final time. 3 weeks of painstakingly documenting his discriminatory behavioral patterns culminate within the next critical operational hour. Federal justice depends entirely on what happens next. Diana enters First National Bank at exactly 10:15 a.m. as planned. The marble lobby echoes with her confident footsteps. Professional customers conduct morning business while tellers process routine transactions behind polished counters. Memphis humidity follows her through the heavy glass doors. She approaches Janet Brown's window carrying legitimate documentation and a substantial cash deposit. Brown's demeanor shifts immediately upon Diana's arrival. The young teller's training kicks in automatically, her eyes scanning Diana with practiced suspicion developed through months of institutional bias instruction. "I'd like to deposit this salary check, please," Diana states clearly, presenting her FBI payroll documentation with professional courtesy. Brown's nervous glances dart toward her supervisor station repeatedly. The legitimate federal salary amount triggers exactly the response Diana anticipated based on weeks of careful observation. Brown follows institutional protocols specifically designed to flag minority customers conducting large financial transactions. "I'll need to verify this with my manager," Brown responds, her voice carrying trained hesitation absent from interactions with white customers. Diana maintains professional calm while internally documenting every discriminatory indicator for federal evidence. The surveillance equipment captures Brown's obvious discomfort with serving a black professional woman conducting legitimate business. Other customers receive immediate service without question, but Diana's identical transaction requires additional verification procedures. Manager Marcus Johnson approaches with rehearsed corporate authority and practiced suspicion. His assessment follows established patterns Diana has observed repeatedly during surveillance operations. Large deposits from minority customers automatically qualify as suspicious activity, requiring immediate police intervention according to bank policy. "Ma'am, I'll need some additional information about this deposit," Johnson states, his tone suggesting criminal suspicion rather than standard banking courtesy. Diana provides comprehensive documentation proving the transaction's complete legitimacy. Johnson's probing questions target her employment history, residence verification, and detailed source of funds. White customers conducting identical transactions receive no such intensive scrutiny or interrogation. "This is quite a substantial amount for someone like you," Johnson continues, following his discrimination training perfectly. The concealed FBI recording device captures every biased comment and systematic procedural violation. Johnson's risk assessment methodology relies entirely on racial profiling rather than legitimate banking security concerns. His predetermined decision to contact police reflects institutional policy rather than actual suspicious activity. "Better safe than sorry with these types," Johnson mutters to Brown, unaware his words provide crucial federal evidence. Diana checks her concealed timepiece discreetly. Thompson's arrival follows predictable timing based on previous surveillance observations. The coordination between bank management and local police demonstrates systematic civil rights violations operating daily. Other customers notice the unusual attention Diana receives compared to routine service. Their uncomfortable expressions reveal clear recognition of discriminatory treatment. The institutional bias operates openly within Memphis's prestigious financial district. Johnson retreats to his private office to initiate police contact procedures. Diana recognizes the familiar discriminatory pattern from weeks of meticulous documentation. First National's systematic discrimination policies function exactly as federal investigators suspected. Air conditioning hums overhead as tension builds throughout the banking lobby. Staff members exchange knowing glances while preparing for Thompson's inevitable arrival. The trap springs exactly as planned. Thompson's patrol car pulls up at exactly 10:45 a.m. with squealing brakes against Memphis asphalt. His boots strike pavement with practiced authority as he enters First National Bank through heavy glass doors. 15 years of veteran confidence radiates from every deliberate movement. He surveys the banking lobby like a seasoned predator, assessing familiar hunting territory that belongs entirely to his jurisdiction. "What's the situation here?" Thompson demands, his commanding voice cutting through morning business transactions with an intimidating presence that silences nearby conversations immediately. Johnson points toward Diana with obvious relief washing across his increasingly nervous face. "Potential fraud case, officer. Large cash deposit from this individual. Something doesn't feel right about the whole transaction or her story. We've seen this type before attempting similar schemes." Thompson approaches Diana without requesting any explanation or reviewing documentation whatsoever. His racial assumptions form instantly upon seeing a professional black woman conducting routine banking business in Memphis's prestigious financial district. Years of systematic police training and deep personal bias merge seamlessly into predetermined racist conclusions about her inevitable criminal intentions. "Ma'am, I need you to step away from the counter immediately," Thompson commands, his hand resting threateningly on his holstered service weapon while other customers watch nervously. Diana attempts calm, professional explanation despite rising institutional tension throughout the crowded lobby. "Officer, if you would just examine my legitimate federal employment documentation carefully, you'll see everything is completely— Turn around. Hands behind your back. Right now. Don't make me repeat myself again." Cold metal handcuffs snap around Diana's wrists with deliberate, excessive force that makes her wince visibly. Thompson applies brutal pressure far beyond operational necessity, ensuring maximum physical discomfort and systematic public humiliation before the watching crowd of banking customers. 30 business professionals observe the unfolding racial spectacle through raised smartphone screens, capturing every degrading moment for social media documentation. "You're under arrest for bank fraud and attempted theft," Thompson announces loudly, ensuring maximum public embarrassment throughout the marble lobby, where Memphis's elite conduct their daily business transactions. Diana maintains professional dignity despite systematic degradation and institutional abuse specifically designed to break her spirit completely. "Officer Thompson, this is a complete misunderstanding that can be easily resolved through proper documentation review and verification." "Save it for downtown, lady. Your kind always has elaborate excuses ready." Thompson grabs her arm roughly and begins violently pulling her across the polished marble floor toward the exit. Diana's professional heels scrape stone with each brutal, forced step that echoes throughout the suddenly silent banking space. Her tailored blazer wrinkles and tears under his deliberately aggressive grip, specifically designed to maximize her public humiliation. Banking customers part like frightened water as Thompson drags his prize toward the glass exit doors with obvious satisfaction. Multiple cell phones capture every humiliating moment from various angles throughout the crowded lobby space. Diana's professional reputation shreds with each public stride across the prestigious institutional space where she conducts completely legitimate business as a federal employee. "Should have thought twice before trying this pathetic scam here with decent people who belong," Thompson mutters with obvious racial contempt, his words clearly audible to multiple recording devices held by shocked witnesses throughout the banking floor. Diana's expensive leather briefcase crashes to marble with thunderous echoing impact, scattering important federal documents across the polished floor like scattered confetti. Thompson shows absolutely no concern for destroying evidence or valuable personal property belonging to his victim. His singular focus involves completing maximum public humiliation before the largest possible banking audience of Memphis business professionals and community leaders. "Keep moving, sweetheart. Don't make this harder than it needs to be for everyone watching," he growls while yanking Diana's arm with systematic, unnecessary violence that draws audible gasps from horrified customers. The prestigious banking lobby transforms into a disturbing theater of systematic racial injustice playing out in broad Memphis daylight before dozens of witnesses. Some uncomfortable customers avert their eyes in obvious moral discomfort at witnessing clear discrimination unfolding. Others lean closer for better video angles of the deeply degrading spectacle happening before their eyes. Typical welfare queen thinking she belongs in here with decent people who actually earn their money, Thompson mutters to nearby security guards, his explicit racist commentary captured by multiple recording devices operated by horrified bystanders documenting police misconduct. Diana's professional business skirt restricts natural movement as Thompson brutally forces her toward the exit doors with increasing violence and obvious enjoyment. Each dragging step amplifies her systematic humiliation before the growing crowd of shocked witnesses documenting clear police brutality in progress. The heavy glass doors approach like ominous gates to further public degradation and institutional racism on Memphis's busy downtown streets. Oppressive Memphis heat waits beyond the threshold where additional humiliation awaits his victim. Thompson's seasoned veteran swagger intensifies dramatically as he prepares to parade his arrest through busy downtown streets filled with business professionals and community members. His 15-year law enforcement career reaches its supremely confident peak moment of racist authority and complete professional satisfaction. Thompson reaches for the exit handle with complete satisfaction and overwhelming professional pride, totally unaware his entire professional world ends in exactly 30 seconds when devastating truth finally emerges. Thompson pushes through the glass doors, dragging Diana onto the Memphis sidewalk with brutal satisfaction. Downtown heat hits them immediately like a suffocating blanket. Pedestrians stop their morning routines to witness the public arrest spectacle unfolding before their shocked eyes on busy Union Avenue. "Move along, folks. Nothing to see here," Thompson commands the rapidly gathering crowd while maintaining his aggressive grip on Diana's arm with obvious enjoyment. Diana's voice cuts through the humid air with calm federal authority that contrasts sharply with her physical restraints. "Officer Thompson, I'm Agent Diana Barnes, Federal Bureau of Investigation." Thompson's confident stride falters immediately. His brutal grip loosens slightly as confusion creeps across his weathered face. The words don't register properly in his mind, clouded by racist assumptions and 15 years of unchecked authority. "What did you just say?" Thompson demands, his commanding voice carrying significantly less authority than moments before during his triumphant arrest. Diana reaches into her torn blazer pocket with deliberate precision despite the restrictive handcuffs. Her federal badge emerges into harsh Memphis sunlight, gold shield gleaming brilliantly against dark leather. The eagle insignia reflects afternoon light as 30 smartphones capture the career-ending moment from multiple angles. "FBI Financial Crimes Division," Diana states clearly and professionally, her undeniable federal credentials displayed before the increasingly shocked crowd of witnesses. Thompson's weathered face drains of color completely. 15 years of veteran confidence evaporates in mere seconds. His hand releases Diana's arm as federal reality crashes violently into his racist assumptions about minority criminals. The badge represents federal authority completely beyond his local jurisdiction. I was following standard department procedure," Thompson stammers pathetically, his voice cracking with sudden panic and growing terror. The gathered crowd gasps audibly at the dramatic power reversal. Cell phones refocus instantly from Diana's systematic humiliation to Thompson's complete professional devastation. Power dynamics shift irreversibly on Memphis concrete. The predator becomes prey before dozens of documented witnesses. "Agent Barnes, Federal Bureau of Investigation," Diana repeats calmly, allowing the devastating federal authority to sink completely into Thompson's consciousness. Thompson's police radio crackles with routine patrol chatter. His backup officers arrive precisely in time to witness their colleague's career-ending mistake. Memphis Police Department supervisors will receive reports about this incident within minutes of its conclusion. "Ma'am, Agent, I had no way of knowing," Thompson whispers desperately, his racist swagger completely replaced by pure terror. Diana maintains perfect professional composure despite her systematic degradation and public humiliation moments earlier inside the bank. For 3 weeks, Officer Thompson, the Federal Bureau of Investigation has been systematically documenting your established pattern of discriminatory behavior. The words impact Thompson like devastating physical blows. Federal surveillance operations, official documentation, pattern recognition analysis. His 47 documented civilian complaints suddenly carry serious federal implications far beyond local political protection. Banking customers emerge from First National to witness Thompson's public humiliation and professional destruction. Manager Johnson appears nervously in the doorway, his face reflecting pure panic at massive institutional liability. The bank's systematic discrimination policies now face comprehensive federal scrutiny. 3 weeks of carefully watching you target minority customers conducting legitimate business, Diana continues, her voice carrying quiet federal authority that silences surrounding street conversation completely. Thompson's hand shakes uncontrollably as he fumbles desperately for his radio. Department protocol demands he report this situation immediately. But how does he possibly explain arresting a federal agent? His 15-year career crumbles in real time before dozens of recording witnesses. Agent Barnes, This is all a terrible misunderstanding that can be resolved, Thompson pleads desperately. Diana's FBI credentials shine brilliantly in Memphis sunlight. Federal authority stands firmly on downtown sidewalks where institutional racism just received its long overdue reckoning. The surveillance operation reaches its carefully planned conclusion exactly as designed. But this devastating revelation represents only the beginning of Thompson's complete nightmare. FBI headquarters Memphis buzzes with intense activity as Diana's surveillance operation expands into a comprehensive federal investigation spanning multiple jurisdictions. 3 weeks of meticulous documentation transforms into systematic evidence of widespread civil rights violations. Data analysts work around the clock, compiling Thompson's detailed arrest patterns while experienced civil rights attorneys prepare federal criminal charges. Diana reviews Thompson's extensive complaint file in her secure downtown office. 47 documented incidents span 15 years of systematic targeting minority citizens. 73% involve minorities conducting completely legitimate business transactions. The mathematical impossibility of random occurrence proves intentional discrimination beyond any reasonable doubt. Pattern analysis confirms systematic institutional bias, Diana reports to Federal Civil Rights Division supervisors via encrypted video conference. Memphis Police Department internal statistics reveal deeply disturbing racial disparities throughout the entire banking district. Thompson's suspicious activity responses average 2 weekly calls involving minority customers conducting normal business. White customers conducting identical transactions receive absolutely no police attention whatsoever. The comprehensive data exposes extensive institutional coordination between banking establishments and law enforcement agencies. First National's internal training materials surface through federal subpoena powers and warrant executions. Employee handbooks contain systematically coded language targeting urban demographics and high-risk customer profiles throughout all operational procedures. Management explicitly instructs staff to contact police immediately when minority customers attempt large transactions, regardless of complete legitimacy. Enhanced screening protocols for urban customers, reads one particularly damning memo discovered in Manager Johnson's locked office files. Diana's expanding investigation uncovers dozens of similar victim testimonies across Memphis's entire banking district. Professional minorities describe identical discriminatory treatment at First National branches throughout the greater metropolitan area. The systematic discrimination operates institutionally rather than representing isolated incidents by individual racist employees. Dr. Patricia Williams, prominent Memphis physician, describes her humiliating experience 6 months earlier during federal testimony. Same bank, Same manager Johnson. Same police response pattern. They treated my legitimate medical practice deposit like obvious criminal activity requiring immediate law enforcement intervention. Attorney James Mitchell recalls identical treatment when depositing substantial legal settlement funds for clients. Manager Johnson called Officer Thompson specifically by name. They clearly have established coordination protocols for systematically targeting minority professionals conducting legitimate business transactions. And federal surveillance recordings capture explicit coordination between bank management and Memphis Police Department dispatch operations. Radio communications reveal predetermined responses to minority customer presence throughout the banking district. Thompson's police dispatcher receives coded discriminatory language, triggering automatic police response to First National locations. We've got another urban situation developing at First National. Dispatcher communications reveal systematic bias embedded within official police department procedures. Diana's investigative team discovers Thompson's annual performance evaluations consistently praising his proactive community policing throughout the banking district. Police supervisors reward his frequent arrests and aggressive crime prevention activities without investigating obvious discrimination patterns. The Memphis Police Department systematically incentivizes racial profiling through official recognition and career advancement. Bank employee interviews expose extensive institutional pressure to report minority customers conducting normal business. Tellers receive systematic discrimination training cleverly disguised as security protocols. Management threatens serious employment consequences for failing to identify suspicious customers matching predetermined racial profiles. They taught us specific risk indicators during mandatory training sessions, admits increasingly nervous teller Janet Brown during intensive federal questioning. Large cash deposits from certain demographics automatically require immediate management notification and police coordination procedures. Thompson's recorded radio communications reveal explicit racial bias during numerous previous arrests throughout his career. Federal wiretaps capture detailed conversations with fellow officers discussing systematically cleaning up the banking district through aggressive enforcement, specifically targeting minority customers. These people need to learn their place in this community, Thompson states clearly on multiple recorded police communications. Federal financial analysis exposes First National's systematic exclusion of minority customers through discriminatory institutional policies. Account closure rates for black customers exceed white customers by over 400%. Loan denial patterns follow identical racial disparities throughout all Memphis branches and satellite locations. Commercial appeal. Investigative journalist Sarah Wilson emerges as crucial federal ally, providing independent verification. Her parallel 3-month investigation documents identical discriminatory patterns across multiple Memphis banking institutions. Independent journalism confirms federal findings while providing additional victim testimonies and documentary evidence. I've been tracking these systematic cases for months, Wilson explains to federal investigators during recorded testimony. First National represents merely the tip of a massive discriminatory iceberg throughout Memphis's entire financial sector. Federal statistical analysis reveals Memphis banking discrimination affects thousands of minority customers annually. Professional economists calculate millions in economic damages through denied services and forced account closures. The systematic discrimination impacts entire communities through reduced economic opportunities and financial exclusion. Additional bank employee testimonies expose management pressure to maintain customer demographic balance through selective service denial. Internal emails reveal explicit instructions to discourage minority customer retention through deliberately poor service quality and hostile treatment. Diana's team discovers coordination between multiple banking institutions sharing risk assessment information about minority customers. Blacklist systems operate throughout Memphis's financial sector, preventing minorities from accessing basic banking services across institutional boundaries. Federal forensic accountants uncover financial incentives driving discrimination. First National receives insurance discounts for maintaining low-risk customer demographics. Corporate policies reward managers for reducing minority customer percentages through systematic exclusion practices. Thompson's arrest statistics reveal seasonal patterns targeting minority customers during specific economic periods. Federal analysis shows increased police responses during tax refund season and benefit payment periods when minorities conduct larger banking transactions. Bank security footage analysis exposes differential treatment protocols. Minority customers face extended waiting times, additional documentation requirements, and heightened security scrutiny compared to identical white customer transactions. Federal civil rights attorneys discover coordination between Thompson and other Memphis police officers. Radio communications reveal systematic targeting of minority customers across multiple banking locations throughout the metropolitan area. Diana's investigation expands to include Memphis city officials enabling discrimination through policy silence. Mayor's office communications reveal awareness of banking discrimination patterns without implementing corrective measures. Federal prosecutors identify RICO violations through systematic conspiracy between banking and law enforcement institutions. Criminal enterprise charges become possible through documented coordination spanning multiple organizations and jurisdictions. Additional victim testimonies reveal psychological trauma caused by systematic discrimination. Mental health professionals document lasting impacts of public humiliation and financial exclusion throughout Memphis's minority communities. Federal civil rights attorneys prepare comprehensive charges against Thompson and First National Bank management. Systematic evidence supports criminal prosecution for violating constitutional protections under federal civil rights statutes. The investigation expands to include Memphis Police Department supervisory structure actively enabling discrimination. Thompson's documented behavior represents institutional policy rather than individual misconduct according to federal analysis. Prosecutors prepare civil rights charges carrying substantial prison sentences and financial penalties for both individual and institutional defendants. Community impact studies reveal systematic banking discrimination affects education funding, small business development, and home ownership throughout Memphis's minority communities. The economic consequences extend far beyond individual victim experiences into generational poverty patterns. Share your own banking discrimination experiences in the comments below. Your voice matters in fighting systematic injustice. The evidence mountain grows higher, but powerful institutional forces prepare to protect themselves. Chief David Miller's emergency conference room fills with Memphis power brokers within hours of Diana's badge revelation. Police union representatives, First National's corporate attorneys, and city officials coordinate damage control strategies. The institutional protection machine activates immediately. This situation requires immediate containment, Miller declares to the assembled group. Officer Thompson followed department training protocols. We cannot allow federal overreach to destroy careers. First National's crisis management team arrives from Atlanta headquarters carrying corporate legal firepower. Senior executives understand the massive liability exposure from systematic discrimination evidence. Their primary objective involves limiting federal prosecution scope while protecting institutional reputation. Thompson's union representative, Detective Lieutenant Paul Anderson, mobilizes legal defense immediately. Officer Thompson responded to legitimate suspicious activity reports. His actions followed established department procedures without discriminatory intent. Internal Memphis Police Department communications reveal coordinated response strategies. Email chains discuss witness intimidation tactics and evidence suppression methods. Command structure priorities focus on protecting Thompson rather than addressing discrimination patterns. Delete all training materials referencing urban demographics, reads one particularly damning internal memo discovered through federal warrant execution. Diana faces immediate institutional pressure from multiple directions simultaneously. The FBI bureaucracy expresses concern about challenging local political relationships. Federal supervisors suggest transferring Diana to different jurisdictions to avoid Memphis confrontation. Agent Barnes, perhaps a reassignment would serve everyone's interests, suggests FBI Assistant Director Michael Roberts during tense video conference discussions. First National implements aggressive public relations campaigns designed to discredit federal discrimination allegations. Corporate communications emphasize their commitment to equal service, while characterizing federal investigation as government overreach targeting legitimate business practices. Bank executives hire prominent Memphis law firms specializing in civil rights defense. Legal strategy focuses on challenging federal jurisdiction while questioning FBI surveillance methods. Corporate attorneys prepare constitutional challenges to federal evidence gathering. Thompson receives full department support despite mounting federal evidence. Memphis Police Department maintains his innocence while characterizing discrimination allegations as politically motivated attacks on law enforcement. Union protection shields Thompson from internal discipline pending federal resolution. Officer Thompson maintains he followed standard protocol for suspicious activity reports, states the official department response to media inquiries. Political pressure emerges from Memphis tourism industry concerned about national attention on racial discrimination. City council members receive corporate lobbying emphasizing economic consequences of federal civil rights investigations. The business community mobilizes against federal intervention. Memphis Mayor Jennifer Williams faces conflicting pressures between federal compliance and local political relationships. Corporate donors threaten campaign support withdrawal if discrimination investigations proceed unchecked. Political survival requires balancing federal cooperation with local business interests. Federal witness intimidation begins subtly through economic pressure tactics. Minority customers describing discrimination experiences face account closures and loan denials across Memphis banking institutions. Employment consequences target federal cooperation among bank employees. Doctor. Patricia Williams discovers her medical practice banking relationships terminated without explanation. Professional minorities providing federal testimony experience systematic financial exclusion throughout Memphis's business community. Thompson's confidence returns with institutional protection surrounding him. Police union legal support combined with department backing restores his professional security. Federal charges seem distant compared to immediate local political protection. This whole thing will blow over once politicians realize the economic consequences, Thompson confides to fellow officers during recorded conversations. Diana's daughter Sarah faces school harassment from children whose parents oppose federal investigation. Personal attacks target Diana's family members through social media campaigns and neighborhood pressure tactics. Federal protection becomes necessary for Diana's safety. Memphis Police Department internal affairs investigation deliberately stalls pending federal resolution. Command structure prevents disciplinary action against Thompson while maintaining public support for his innocence. The blue wall of silence protects discriminatory practices from internal accountability. First National's Board of Directors authorizes unlimited legal spending to defeat federal charges. Corporate survival depends on avoiding criminal prosecution and federal oversight. Shareholder interests require protecting institutional reputation regardless of discrimination evidence. Federal prosecutors face enormous pressure from Washington officials concerned about Memphis political relationships. Civil rights enforcement conflicts with broader political considerations involving Tennessee congressional delegation and federal judicial appointments. Thompson's attorney launches a media campaign portraying him as a scapegoat for broader social problems. Legal strategy emphasizes his long service record while minimizing discrimination evidence through procedural challenges. City council hearings feature business leaders warning about federal investigation economic consequences. Tourism industry representatives emphasize Memphis reputation damage from national civil rights attention. Corporate pressure intensifies against federal cooperation. Diana discovers surveillance of her personal activities by unknown parties. Professional intimidation tactics escalate beyond official channels into private investigation harassment. Federal protection services monitor threats against Diana and her family. The institutional machinery protecting discrimination operates at full capacity against federal accountability. Diana sits alone in her FBI office at midnight, Memphis city lights flickering through rain-streaked windows. 3 weeks of evidence surrounds her in neat federal files, but institutional power seems insurmountable. The weight of fighting systematic racism presses down like oppressive humidity. Her desk phone remains silent. Federal supervisors avoid returning calls about prosecution timelines. Washington bureaucrats express growing concern about challenging Memphis' political establishment. The civil rights investigation faces bureaucratic strangulation. Maybe we should consider alternative approaches, Assistant Director Roberts suggested during today's uncomfortable video conference. Translation: abandon the case. Sarah calls from her grandmother's house where Diana sent her for safety. "Mommy, when can I come home? The kids at school are being mean about the news stories." Diana's heart breaks hearing her daughter's confused voice. Fighting institutional racism costs more than career advancement. Family safety becomes collateral damage in federal civil rights enforcement. Memphis Police Department rallies completely around Thompson with renewed confidence. Command structure promotes his case as victimization by federal overreach. Union support provides unlimited legal resources while shielding him from accountability. Thompson returns to active duty with full departmental backing. His patrol route includes the banking district where discrimination continues unchallenged. Federal investigation changes nothing about daily operations. First National Bank operations continue normally despite federal scrutiny. Management implements minimal adjustments while maintaining discriminatory practices through subtle modifications. Corporate attorneys delay federal proceedings through procedural challenges. A leaked internal bank memo surfaces through anonymous whistleblower channels. Diana reads the devastating document with growing despair. Enhanced screening protocols for urban customers remain essential for institutional security, the memo states explicitly. Federal investigation requires operational adjustments without policy abandonment. The smoking gun proves systematic discrimination continues despite federal attention. Corporate leadership prioritizes protecting discriminatory practices over complying with civil rights laws. Institutional racism adapts rather than disappears. Diana's isolation intensifies as federal support evaporates under political pressure. Colleagues avoid association with controversial investigations. Career advancement opportunities disappear while administrative obstacles multiply exponentially. Federal witnesses face escalating economic retaliation throughout the Memphis business community. Dr. Patricia Williams loses hospital privileges without explanation. Attorney James Mitchell discovers client referrals mysteriously decreasing after federal testimony. Community intimidation operates through economic pressure rather than direct threats. Minority professionals understand the consequences of supporting federal civil rights enforcement. Silent compliance becomes a survival strategy. Thompson's recorded communications reveal growing confidence about avoiding federal prosecution. Police union attorneys assure him that political pressure will neutralize federal charges. Institutional protection creates immunity from accountability. These federal types always back down when real pressure starts, Thompson states clearly on wiretapped conversations. Memphis takes care of its own. Federal grand jury proceedings face delays through defense motions and procedural challenges. Civil rights prosecution requires sustained federal commitment against local political resistance. Washington support seems increasingly uncertain. Diana's FBI performance evaluations reflect bureaucratic displeasure with controversial investigations. Career advancement depends on avoiding politically sensitive cases. Federal law enforcement priorities shift away from civil rights enforcement. Memphis tourism industry reports revenue declines attributed to negative publicity from federal investigation. Economic arguments overwhelm moral considerations in political decision-making. Corporate interests triumph over constitutional protections. Diana stares at evidence files knowing truth isn't enough without institutional courage. Federal civil rights enforcement requires political will that seems absent. Systematic discrimination continues, while justice waits for convenient timing. Rain continues falling outside her window, like tears for abandoned justice. Memphis sleeps peacefully, while institutional racism operates under political protection. Have you ever felt powerless against systematic injustice? Share your experiences fighting institutional bias. Then an unexpected ally emerges from Memphis journalism with game-changing evidence. Sarah Wilson's investigative series explodes across Memphis Commercial Appeal's front page like a media earthquake. Banking While Black in Memphis features devastating documentation paralleling Diana's federal evidence. Independent journalism validates everything federal investigators discovered. "This happened to me, too," floods Wilson's email inbox within hours of publication. The Memphis minority community finds courage through shared experiences. Individual shame transforms into collective outrage against systematic discrimination. Wilson's 3-month investigation uncovers identical patterns across multiple Memphis banking institutions. Her documentation extends beyond First National to reveal citywide discrimination networks. Independent verification destroys corporate claims about isolated incidents. Dr. Patricia Williams reads Wilson's series with tears of vindication. "Finally, someone believes us. We're not crazy. This really happens to professional minorities throughout Memphis." Social media erupts with hashtag banking, while Black trending nationally within 24 hours. Memphis stories inspire similar testimonies from minorities across America. Local discrimination becomes national civil rights conversation. Memphis NAACP mobilizes community support around Diana's federal investigation. President Minister Robert Johnson organizes public meetings featuring discrimination survivors. Community solidarity replaces individual isolation in fighting institutional racism. Agent Diana Barnes risked everything to expose this systematic injustice, Johnson declares to packed church gatherings. "We must support federal civil rights enforcement." Corporate boycotts emerge organically throughout the Memphis minority community. First National faces significant customer departures as community solidarity translates into economic pressure. Financial consequences follow moral accountability. Wilson's journalism exposes Memphis Police Department's role in systematic discrimination. Radio communications reveal coordinated responses targeting minority customers across multiple banking locations. Police corruption becomes undeniable through independent documentation. Federal attention returns as media coverage generates national civil rights interest. Washington politicians face pressure to support federal prosecution rather than protecting local political relationships. Public opinion shifts toward supporting accountability. Memphis City Council receives thousands of emails demanding justice for systematic discrimination. Community pressure overwhelms corporate lobbying influence. Political calculations change when constituents demand civil rights enforcement. Thompson's union support wavers as public opinion turns against institutional protection of racism. Police officers distance themselves from defending obvious discrimination. The blue wall of silence cracks under community pressure. Additional victims emerge daily sharing identical experiences at Memphis banking institutions. Pattern documentation becomes overwhelming through community testimonies. Systematic discrimination evidence multiplies beyond corporate denial capacity. Wilson connects Diana with community organizations providing federal investigation support. Grassroots coalition replaces bureaucratic isolation with popular backing. Federal agents no longer fights institutional racism alone. The people of Memphis deserve equal treatment in financial institutions, Wilson writes in her concluding editorial. Federal civil rights enforcement protects constitutional guarantees. Memphis business community recognizes economic consequences of supporting discrimination. The tourism industry expresses concern about national attention on systematic racism. Corporate interests begin aligning with civil rights compliance. Federal prosecutors face renewed pressure to pursue criminal charges against Thompson and First National. Community mobilization demonstrates political support for civil rights enforcement. Washington hesitation becomes politically costly. Diana's federal investigation gains legitimacy through independent journalism validation. Media coverage transforms controversial cases into mainstream civil rights enforcement. Community support provides political protection for federal prosecution. Thompson's confidence erodes as public opinion turns decisively against him. Police union protection seems insufficient against community mobilization. Federal prosecution becomes inevitable through sustained pressure. Memphis minority community discovers collective power through shared experiences fighting systematic discrimination. Individual victimization transforms into organized resistance against institutional racism. Hope returns through community solidarity, supporting federal civil rights enforcement. Diana's secure phone rings at 6:47 a.m. with game-changing news from the FBI Technical Surveillance Division. 3 weeks of federal wiretaps yield devastating audio evidence that will destroy Thompson's defense completely. Agent Barnes, you need to hear these recordings immediately, technical analyst Jennifer Davis announces with barely contained excitement in her voice. Federal surveillance equipment captured real-time conversations between Thompson and Manager Johnson, coordinating discriminatory responses. Audio quality remains crystal clear, with zero interpretation needed. Their own voices provide undeniable evidence of systematic racial profiling. Just another suspicious black customer trying to scam the system, Thompson's voice states clearly on a recorded phone conversation with Johnson during Diana's banking transaction. The federal recording captures Johnson's immediate response coordinating police intervention. "I'll call you directly, Kyle. You know how to handle these people appropriately." Thompson's explicit bias emerges throughout multiple recorded conversations spanning Diana's 3-week surveillance operation. Federal wiretaps document systematic coordination between police and banking institutions targeting minority customers conducting legitimate business. These urban types think they belong in respectable banking establishments, Thompson states during another recorded conversation. "We need to remind them about appropriate boundaries." Audio evidence reveals predetermined responses to minority customer presence at First National. Thompson's dispatcher communications follow scripted language triggering automatic police responses. Systematic discrimination operates through established protocols rather than individual prejudice. Federal prosecutors receive audio documentation proving criminal conspiracy between law enforcement and financial institutions. Civil rights violations become undeniable through recorded conversations demonstrating intentional bias. Bank training sessions captured through federal surveillance expose institutional discrimination instruction. Management explicitly teaches staff to identify minority customers requiring police intervention, regardless of transaction legitimacy. Enhanced scrutiny protocols for urban demographics prevent potential fraud situations. Johnson's voice instructs bank employees during recorded training sessions. Thompson's conversations with fellow officers reveal widespread discrimination throughout the Memphis Police Department. Audio evidence exposes institutional culture supporting racial profiling as standard operating procedure. "The banking district stays clean when we respond quickly to minority activity," Thompson explains to rookie officers during recorded patrol briefings. Federal surveillance captures Thompson's confidence about avoiding accountability through institutional protection. Audio recordings reveal his expectation that political pressure will neutralize federal prosecution efforts. Federal investigators always back down when local pressure starts mounting, Thompson states clearly during wiretapped phone conversation with police union representatives. Diana listens to audio evidence with growing satisfaction as the federal case becomes prosecution-proof. Thompson's own words eliminate any possible defense strategies. Recorded conversations provide unshakable evidence of systematic civil rights violations. Legal experts confirm audio recordings meet all federal evidence standards for criminal prosecution. Chain of custody documentation ensures admissibility in federal court proceedings. Thompson's recorded bias statements guarantee conviction. Bank executives panic upon learning about federal audio surveillance of their discrimination training programs. Corporate liability expands exponentially through recorded evidence of systematic institutional bias. Federal grand jury receives audio evidence demonstrating clear criminal conspiracy between police and banking institutions. Recorded conversations prove intentional civil rights violations beyond reasonable doubt. Thompson's union attorneys receive devastating news about federal audio surveillance evidence. Defense strategies collapse when confronted with clients' recorded admissions of systematic discrimination. Memphis Police Department faces federal oversight investigation based on audio evidence revealing institutional culture supporting racial profiling. Recorded conversations expose command structure knowledge of discriminatory practices. Thompson's political protection evaporates as audio evidence becomes public through federal court filings. Political allies distance themselves from defending recorded racism. Game over. Federal prosecution becomes inevitable through Thompson's own recorded words. Memphis City Council chambers pack beyond capacity as federal civil rights hearing convenes with national media attention. Diana sits at the federal witness table with 3 weeks of devastating evidence organized in neat prosecution files. Council Chairman Robert Davis calls the emergency session to order while television cameras capture every moment. We gather today to address serious allegations of systematic discrimination in our city's financial institutions. Diana approaches the witness microphone with federal authority radiating from her professional demeanor. The same woman Thompson dragged across marble floors now commands Memphis's most powerful chamber. Honorable council members, the evidence speaks for itself. Diana begins with quiet confidence that silences the packed gallery. Audio recordings play through the chamber's sound system with crystal clarity. Thompson's voice fills the room, expressing explicit racial bias during banking coordination calls. 30 witnesses from First National recognize his discriminatory language. Just another suspicious black customer trying to scam the system, echoes throughout council chambers as community members gasp audibly. Thompson sits in the gallery's back row, his face drained of color as his own recorded words condemn him publicly. Police union attorneys frantically review legal options while their client's career dies in real time. Johnson's recorded voice follows Thompson's bias with institutional confirmation. I'll call you directly, Kyle. You know how to handle these people appropriately. Federal prosecutors present systematic evidence through Diana's testimony. Banking discrimination patterns emerge clearly through statistical analysis, spanning 15 years of documented complaints against Thompson. Community members provide powerful victim impact testimony describing identical discriminatory treatment at First National. Dr. Patricia Williams recounts her humiliating experience while Thompson watched from across the packed chamber. Same bank, same manager, same police response pattern, Williams testifies with dignified anger. They treated my legitimate medical practice deposit like obvious criminal activity. Thompson's recorded conversations with fellow officers reveal institutional discrimination throughout the Memphis Police Department. Audio evidence exposes command structure knowledge and approval of systematic racial profiling. Memphis Mayor Jennifer Williams faces community pressure to implement immediate reforms. Political survival requires distancing herself from Thompson while supporting federal civil rights enforcement. First National's corporate representatives attempt damage control through prepared statements emphasizing commitment to equal service. Their words ring hollow against recorded evidence of systematic discrimination training. First National Bank maintains that our policies are applied equally to all customers regardless of race, states corporate attorney Michael Turner with obvious discomfort. Council members express outrage upon hearing audio evidence of systematic bias operating in their city. Political pressure intensifies for immediate accountability and comprehensive reform measures. Federal Civil Rights Division announces comprehensive investigation into Memphis Police Department practices. Thompson's recorded communications trigger federal oversight of institutional discrimination patterns. Community activists demand Thompson's immediate termination and criminal prosecution. Public pressure overwhelms police union protection as recorded evidence eliminates possible defenses. Thompson's silence speaks volumes as council members demand his response to audio evidence. No defense exists against his own recorded admissions of systematic racial bias. Diana's federal testimony concludes with devastating impact. The recordings prove systematic coordination between law enforcement and financial institutions to exclude minority customers from equal treatment. Federal prosecutors announce criminal civil rights charges against Thompson and bank management. Audio evidence supports felony convictions carrying substantial prison sentences. Memphis Police Department agrees to federal oversight through consent decree. Recorded discrimination evidence triggers comprehensive reform requirements. Justice finally confronts institutional racism through federal authority and community mobilization. 6 months later, federal justice delivers comprehensive accountability. Thompson faces 5 years in federal prison after pleading guilty to civil rights violations. His recorded words eliminate any defense. First National pays $12 million in discrimination settlements while agreeing to federal oversight. Corporate policies undergo complete revision under Justice Department supervision. Memphis Police Department operates under federal consent decree requiring bias training. 89% reduction in discriminatory police calls follows federal intervention. Diana receives the FBI Director's Award for Exceptional Courage in Civil Rights Enforcement. One person's courage can change entire systems, Director Christopher Davis states during her commendation. Sarah returns home safely. "I'm proud of you, Mom. You made things fair for everyone." Memphis banking district transforms through federal oversight. Minority customers receive equal treatment under monitoring protocols. Dr. Patricia Williams opens new practice accounts without harassment. Manager Johnson faces 3 years federal imprisonment for coordinating discrimination policies. The banking industry recognizes serious consequences for systematic bias practices. Thompson's prison sentence sends clear messages throughout law enforcement. Recorded bias conversations demonstrate federal surveillance capability and prosecution commitment. The badge and bank vault couldn't protect them from the truth. Federal authority enforces constitutional protections when communities demand justice. If this story moved you, share it widely. Your voice amplifies justice for discrimination victims. Subscribe for more stories where federal courage defeats institutional racism. Comment below about your own discrimination experiences. Together we create accountability through shared truth. Like this video if you believe constitutional protections require federal enforcement. Because when good people stand up to institutional bias, mountains of injustice move toward equality.
At Black Voices Uncut, we don't polish away the pain or water down the message. We tell it like it is because the truth deserves nothing less. If today's story spoke to you, click like, join the conversation in the comments, and subscribe so you'll be here for the next Uncut Voice.